There is a moment in every man's life where something feels painfully backward. A moment where you finally decide to care. You finally show up. You finally give your heart some space to breathe. And instead of meeting warmth, softness, or gratitude, you get coldness, distance, a sudden emotional frost that wasn't there before. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself she's just stressed. You tell yourself maybe you did something wrong. But deep down, a part of you knows something darker is happening. Something psychological, something you were never taught to see. Because here's the truth most men never learn. A woman doesn't act cold when you care because she hates your care. She acts cold because your care exposes something inside her she can't control. Women don't fear losing love. Women fear losing control of love. And the moment you show too much care too quickly, the moment you reveal emotion without intention, the moment you begin investing before she feels safe enough to receive it, that's the moment her survival instincts activate. Most men think love melts women, but in reality, love makes women defensive until they trust the man giving it. When she acts cold, it's not rejection, it's a psychological shield. Because your care reveals two things: her emotional power over you, her fear that she cannot control what happens next, and nothing scares a woman more than losing control of the emotional story. When you care openly, she suddenly sees the truth she was avoiding, that you're not casual, you're not temporary, and you're not running away. You're emotionally present, and that presence forces her to confront her own feelings. But here's the twist. Most women don't know what to do with a man who cares. All her life, she learned to navigate men who chase, men who pull away, men who play games. But a stable man, a grounded man, a man who actually shows interest without obsessing, that is foreign territory. So instead of leaning in, she disconnects. She becomes cold because your warmth exposes her fear of vulnerability, exposes her fear of choosing wrong, exposes her fear of being hurt again, exposes her fear that you might be too good to be true, exposes her fear that if she falls for you, you might one day stop caring. That fear turns into distance. She acts cold because caring requires emotional nakedness. And she doesn't know if she's safe enough to undress her heart. But there's another layer, the darker truth most men never notice. When you finally care, she suddenly realizes the dynamic is shifting. You were once a mystery, now you're a certainty. You were once unpredictable, now you're available. You were once a challenge, now you're invested, and whether she admits it or not. Women lose emotional tension when the man becomes too predictable too fast. It's not cruelty, it's instinct. Women are wired to test stability before surrendering. But if you show your hand too early, she doesn't know whether she's surrendering to strength or to insecurity. So she creates coldness to test you, to see what your care is made of. Is it desperation? Or is it depth? Is it neediness? Or is it intention? Is it pressure? Or is it presence? Coldness reveals what your warmth is built on. Most men panic at this point. They chase harder. They apologize for things they never did. They try to convince her. They try to reassure her. They try to prove their value. And that is the exact moment they lose her completely. Because when a man overcares, he sends a signal she cannot unsee. My emotional world depends on your validation. That is when she detaches. Not because she doesn't care, but because she cannot trust a man who cannot trust himself. When she acts cold, it's not because your care is wrong. It's because your care is unbalanced. It's because your care started chasing her instead of guiding the connection. Women don't run from care. Women run from instability disguised as care. Because real care is calm. Real care is grounded. Real care doesn't over-explain. Real care doesn't seek approval. Real care doesn't collapse when she tests you. Real care doesn't turn into emotional dependence. Real care is a man saying with his energy, I care for you, but I don't need you to validate me. Most men don't understand this distinction. They give care as a trade. Care in exchange for closeness, care in exchange for attention, care in exchange for reassurance. And women feel the transaction immediately. Care wrapped in expectation becomes pressure. Pressure makes women cold. So she acts distant to see the truth. Do you care because it's who you are? Or do you care because you want something from her? Coldness reveals your intentions. Coldness reveals your insecurities. Coldness reveals your emotional strength. Coldness reveals whether your care is actually confidence or masked desperation. She doesn't want you to stop caring. She wants to see if your care collapses the moment she tests your emotional balance. Because if your care disappears, it wasn't care, it was a strategy, and women feel the difference instantly. The deeper truth? Women act cold when they feel something real. Women act cold when they are afraid of how much they feel. Women act cold when they are overwhelmed. Women act cold when they don't trust themselves to trust you. Women act cold when their emotions grow faster than their safety. Women act cold not because you care too much, but because they fear they might care too much back. Coldness is not emotional rejection. It is emotional self-defense. But the coldest truth is this. A woman becomes cold when she senses you losing your masculine center. If your care pulls you off balance, she will freeze. If your care drains your confidence, she will freeze. If your care becomes your identity, she will freeze. If your care becomes a plea instead of a presence, she will freeze. Women don't run from love. Women run from men who shrink themselves for love. Your care doesn't scare her. Your loss of self does. So how does a man respond when she acts cold? Not by chasing, not by demanding, not by pulling away in revenge, not by proving anything, just by staying centered, staying calm, staying grounded, staying steady, staying present, staying intentional. A man who remains emotionally anchored when she pulls away becomes 10 times more attractive. Because he shows her something she didn't expect, that his care is not fragile, that his interest is not emotional dependence, that his affection is not built on her mood, that he can handle her fear without absorbing it, that he can handle her coldness without freezing, that he can hold the emotional tension she is afraid of holding herself. This is the moment where she begins to melt, not because you chase her, but because you didn't collapse when she tested you, not because you beg for closeness, but because you stay close to yourself. Her coldness is not a wall, it is a mirror reflecting whether your care comes from strength or from weakness. And once she sees your strength, her coldness dissolves, her defenses soften, her fear fades, her emotional walls lower, and she begins to trust you, not because of your care, but because of your stability behind it. In the end, the dark truth is simple. She acts cold, not because you care, but because she needs to know that your care won't disappear when she tests your truth. And when you show her that your care is rooted in strength, that's when she finally feels safe enough to warm up again. If this hit you somewhere deep, tell me in the comments what part spoke to you the most. Your engagement tells me exactly what truths to expose next.